I just finished typing. I'm like, I'm going to put a comment in here, and then the video ended. So unfortunately, it's non-looping and it ends, and that's never a fun thing when it ends too soon. But I'm Jeff Fuller with Fuller Embroidery Works, and that is Justin Armenta from JA Digitizing Studios. And today we will be exploring Floriani Total Control U software. See, I feel special that I can read the title bar.
There you go.
But before we went live, me and Justin were talking about Justin's new customer portal thing that he has for his digitizing customers. So if you guys want to check out digitizing, you can always go check out Justin Armenta. And I don't know if you want to say anything about it before I.
It's a system that I've been trying to implement for a long time now. I know for my longtime customers, this is something they'd like to see. It's finally, I have a customer portal where you can, it's going to store all your files. You can access them at any time. Invoicing, messaging, orders, edit requests. It's all in one area, so all the customers can go and get everything that they need. So pretty excited about it. It's really easy to use. So, and Jeff here is the one that turned me on to it. So thank you. But yeah, check it out if you have been doing work with me. And you haven't set it up yet, just let me know and we'll get you set up or new customers as well. So,
all right, let's crack our knuckles here. And today we're going to be talking about Floriani Total Control U and no, entire screen. There we go. I don't like to share the window because then you can't see pop-ups. And I like you guys to be able to see the pop-ups, although I think that I should hide the thing that says hide. And this is the Floriani Total Control Universal Bundle is what I'm working in right now. So I do have some more options than just the regular Floriani Total Control U. I want to say that it's like the quilting stuff, but we'll go ahead and we'll click on New File. And I want to kind of explain the layout here because there's a really cool feature that they added in here that not a lot of people know about. It was something that DJ showed me and I was pretty surprised. But if you come here and you go to that drop down button and you go to FTCU2, it changes the user interface and it puts your sequence window on the right hand side. So all of your objects are you just have more room for them, I guess. So it's not stuck underneath the properties panel here. But let me come over here to File and we will go to Load Backdrop. And we're not going to load any of their standard backdrops. I went too far, Justin.
that folder.
Huh?
I said you got to find that folder now.
I know, right? Like network, desktop, other stuff.
So while Jeff's doing that, just a little back information as far as why we're talking about Floriani right now. In the Embroidery Nerd, we're education forward. We're here to make sure that everybody can, learn new skills, whether it's software, embroidering, and everything else in the garment decorating industry. But we're in a unique position, and the people that we've met and see that we're trying to educate, they're reaching out to us and allowing us to learn more about their products, namely the Floriani software. And, at the same time, we're having the opportunity to learn this stuff too. This is stuff that we, especially as long as I've been in the business, Jeff is known to have a lot of softwares that he's learned and used and owned. But we have these opportunities now where we can learn new products, work with these companies, and upon us learning more about them, we can share with you, just so we're not just focused on the main tools that we use. Namely, you see a lot of our videos are Wilcom based because that is the primary software that pretty much all of us use. But we want to expand our horizons and educate more in different softwares and not just be Wilcom only. You've seen more videos of Pulse coming out that Jeff's been putting out a lot lately. We're going to dive deep into Floriani as well. But basically, we're going to try to share anything that we feel that are great tools in the industry to use, just to show there's different options out there, and you're not just stuck to one trick pony type thing. So
Yep. And they all offer. It's interesting because they all offer something different, pluses and minuses with each one of them. I'm going to grab some comments because Cindy asked a question, and I'm going to catch up to the question. So we'll get there first. So Cindy says, "Good evening, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas." We have Ramona that jumped in. Jesse jumped in. Hi, everyone. There we go. And Doug says, hopefully the bugs were worked out. I think that's to the customer portal.
Mhm.
Jesse's watching from Cyclone, West Virginia. There we go. Doug is from sunny but chilly Los Angeles. And Cindy, here we go. Why Floriani, pros and cons? So one of the biggest pros of Floriani is that it is a buy once software. So there's no version. When they come out with a new version, they just update it. And anybody who's purchased the software just gets that update. So I know people that have purchased this 10 years ago and they're on the latest build.
Right.
So there's not really like minor, major revisions. It's just they're constantly improving the program. And once you buy it, you get it. It is built by, hold on, I'm going to get this right. Pulse Microsystems by Tajima. Did I get that right?
I believe that's the name they go by now. Yes.
The way they go by now. So basically Pulse Microsystems, who made Pulse DG software, they were bought by Tajima.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it is they're under that. But this software is developed by Pulse, and don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure I can open up the Pulse native format files in here. I can open PXFs, but I can't save to them.
Right.
So that is one of the biggest advantages is you're on the DG Stitch engine, I believe. And then it is a buy once software. And it has a lot of usability tools in it that make it pretty simple to use. There you go. You can also, when you create assets, you can export asset files. And so you can share assets. So it's kind of like Wilcom ESA, because fonts would be an asset. Mm-hmm. Except for it's got a really simple, like I can easily file export, and I can check what I want to export into an asset file. And I can send that to you, Justin, and then you go through like a file import. So it's not like go find the folder to drop it in. You do it through the user interface, and it's pretty slick. So
yeah, the customization and the templates and stuff like that is a lot more simple in this software than what other softwares have. They have a lot of the same stuff, but a lot of times it's just how how user friendly is in the interface. And just to add to as far as the history behind Floriani, if anybody has been in the industry for a while and you hear the Floriani name, you know that is a name that's gone way back in the industry, that's been around. So between the history of Floriani himself and the work he's done in the industry and the knowledge he has, teaming up with a powerhouse like Pulse DG, you know that the software is pretty robust. And amongst other things, price point of this software isn't going to be as costly as something like a Pulse or a Wilcom as well.
Right. Okay. More comments. Candace says, this is my go-to software. I love it, plus free updates. So there's that. Doug asks, what does it cost? Hold on. I know it's just under 2,000. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to throw a hard cost out there because I don't want to get it wrong, but yeah, I want to say it's right under 2,000 to get the full.
Right. Now there are specialty add-ons, if I'm not mistaken. There's a couple of things you can add on, but for the most part, the lifetime purchase for the software gets you the majority of what the software does. It is another question here. What kind of computer? Oops. Do you use it on? It is a Windows-based program.
Yes, it is a Windows-based program. So we can definitely find out what the cost is, and we can get that out too. So don't quote me on any numbers because I'm not 100% sure because I didn't write that down. I was not expecting that type of a question today. So let's go ahead and take a look at Pulse. So not Pulse, Floriani. You can tell I've been making too many videos. So I was able to load the backdrop here, which is really slick because it brings it in. It doesn't show it as an item in the list here. But it allows us to where we can select the backdrop tool. And so it's kind of like a locked layer. And I can right click on it. I can define horizon or scale. So that's if I want to scale it up. So let's say I want from here to the top of here, right there, to be 100 millimeters. I can do that, and it's going to scale that proportionally. If I'm not sure, like I don't necessarily want to work in millimeters, I can actually right click up on here on the ruler and I can change it to inches. So now if I scaled it again, I would have the inches, and I can see that's 3.9, which I'd rather have it closer to 3.5. It's really helpful if you get like a graphic. I'm going to get this right too. If you get a graphic that, like this PNG has a nice tight background to it. So let's say I got a picture off of the side of a truck driving down the street, and they want me to, the truck driver's driving out, they want the logo, so they took it as quick as they could while I was driving down the street. That's going to help me with that, where I can define the horizon, so I'm able to rotate it, as well as I'm able to define the scale. So you can do all that with the backdrop tool, which is really, really handy. These little box circles here are going to allow me to rotate it if I want to rotate it, and then I can just scale there. And I can hit the select button, and then that brings me outside of the backdrop select. So now I'm able to digitize over the top of the art without grabbing it, snagging it, or anything like that. Down here, currently I've got the Floriani palette loaded because that's what loads by default. You can change that in your user settings. But if I want to, let's go ahead and pick some colors here. So let's say we're going to use this green. I can just right click on it and I can say add to design palette. So this up here is going to be my design palette, and this is my available colors. So I can go through, if I want to, I can jump a little further. We can say we're going to use this one, and I'm going to add it to my design palette. And so I could go through and I could add all of those colors, and it can be off of any thread chart, right? But if you don't do your thread chart, you can go to thread chart or threadconverter.com.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Is that where you were headed to?
That is.
Nice. All right. So one more thing, just because it's going to bug me, is I can actually set my 0 point by clicking here and dragging down, and I can say that it's right there in the middle, which is pretty slick. So I don't really have to drag it or move it around, but I can go into the backdrop tool there, and I can set it at my X and my Y coordinates as well, which is going to set it differently to that, apparently, because I moved that. We're not going to talk about that. That was not what I expected to happen, but that's okay. We'll keep going. So looking at this design, we'll go ahead and start digitizing it. I do like to do the global underlay, which is what Justin talks a lot about when he teaches, because I found that it just helps stabilize things a lot better, and it reduces a lot of the issues that we tend to have.
Yeah, any shifting, there's a couple of things. Any shifting in the lighter weight fabrics that you might have when sewing, and or if you are working with something like a towel or something that has a little bit more of a fibrous pile to it, it does help kind of match down those fibers, unless you are going to do something like a knockdown fill before you do the design itself. But yeah, just some stabilization that I usually do, especially on hats. I use pretty much on every design. But yeah, it is a technique that does help with sew quality.
All right. So I went ahead and changed that to white thread. This is an object that I would digitize from the back to the front, most definitely, to make sure that I get all of these layers correct. So I really have two options. I can either start up here on the hat and I can work my way this way, or I can start at the feet and work my way up. So I'm going to go ahead and start at my feet. Now, I can digitize using my artwork tool, so the pen tool if I want to, or I can digitize using the objects because it actually has a really slick interface for changing the object type. So right now I've got it as I'm digitizing a fill. It does use control click to do curves, which takes a little bit of getting used to.
So what Jeff is referring to there is, depending on what software that you use, Wilcom, straight and curved nodes are done by using the left and right mouse buttons. This particular software is similar to like the older software that I used, which was Wings. You still use your left click mouse button, but to toggle between straight and curved nodes, you are using your control button.
Yep. So now I've closed the object and I can actually come here and I can set my stitch angle. So it's going to ask me what I want. So I can set my stitch angle, and then it's going to ask me where I want my start point to be and where I want my stop point to be. So I'm going to go ahead and set my stop point there. And as you can see, it gave us essentially this is a fill. So over here, it tells us that it's a fill. If I want to change that to satin, it's really easy. I can just come down here and I can hit the satin button, and it's going to ask me for stitch angles. So I'm just going to put in a couple of stitch angles because the stitch angles will change. And I can hit enter. And now we've converted from a fill to a satin. So I'm catching questions too till Justin gets back here. Mike says, what is this wizardry? Currently, it is Floriani Total Control is what we're going in today. And Escobar asks, what are the options to send file to the embroidery machine? Is there a network option? I do not believe that there is a network option. You basically will go like file, save as, or save to so, and you can export it to a machine file like a DST. But there's not as far as I'm aware, there's no networking component to it. You can see that it did start dropping a split line in there. So if I go over here to my split, pull, push, get the right one. So right now it's set at a random split. I could turn that off if I want to get rid of the split line there. So I'm actually going to leave it on, and I'm going to leave it at a random split because it is kicking in at 7 millimeters. And so that is slightly larger than 7 millimeters. I'm going to go ahead and change that to brown because that's the color of the foot that we're working on. And if I want it to stay to the color that I'm digitizing to, that's the last color I selected. So it's going to stay to that color. I can go ahead and hit begin digitizing, right click, and now I'm still going with brown. It does look symmetrical. So I'm going to select the object here and I'm going to copy it. And they have these neat little tools here down at the bottom that allow you to do things to the objects. Like this is node edit right here that I'm able to go into while you're selecting. So I can just hit the copy button right there. I can bring it over and we can mirror it along the x-axis, and I can kind of line it up here until I'm happy with where it is. And we'll go ahead and go into the node edit so that I can see where everything is. My start point's up there, my stop point's down there. So I'm going to bring those two closer together right there. And that's going to be our feet. And boy, does that, I don't know if I like the way that foot looks right there. I think we'll do that one again. And I'll just delete those two objects and go from there. So let's go ahead and go into node edit. We'll take a look at this object and it looks okay. I'll just delete it and start over.
There's a quick question here as far as what in the embroidery machine, is there a network option? Unless you know that answer, Jeff, I was just going to say, the more we get into the software and learn a little bit more about it, we'll have more information as far as that's concerned.
I did answer that one already.
Oh, you can?
But that's okay. You can answer it too. So again, I'm going to set my stitch angles. I'll just set a couple here. and it's going to ask me for where I want my start point. I'll go ahead and start it over there. I'll finish it right there. And now we'll add we'll just do a satin. So again, I've got the satin stitch selected. We'll come across and I'll go to right there.
And there is another comment here from Dennis. The Floriani October update allows you to make curves with the right click and straight lines with the left click. So that is good information to know.
Yep, it's you set it in the settings up here where you do your input, so they have quick, and so it's going to be the quick draw. And this is something that's pretty interesting. So you can actually draw with the different types of inputs. You can do a pen, you can do Bezier curves, you can do I want to say it's a 3-point arc, just a regular curve, and you can do quick draw, which is inputting in with the right click. And I can honestly tell you that I've been using Floriani for a while now, and I am I've gotten used to the control click, so I didn't turn it back. But it is something that's pretty handy. If you come from a different software, you can kind of edit the input style to what you're used to. So again, I'll come up and I'll drop that there. I'm going to select these two objects and we'll just duplicate them, move them over here, and we'll flip them across the x-axis. And there we go. All right, Justin. Now we got to make some stitch type decisions. Dun. Yeah, decisions. It took me a little bit, but I'm still here. So there's a really cool feature here. This is actually something that I think will help a lot of beginners when they start digitizing, because you look at an object and you say, okay, well, what stitch type do I use? How am I going to digitize this? So if you go into the ruler tool right here, which is the R key, if you hover over, it shows you what the shortcut keys are. But if we go in here and let's say we measure with the ruler from here to here, you can see that it's giving us a tip. Maybe you can see it. I can see it. Yeah. But it's right next to the distance that it's giving me. It's saying tip, use a satin. So this is roughly 0.19 of an inch. I don't want to go in inches anymore. I want to go to metric. So that's roughly 5 millimeters. And it's saying, hey, this is 5 millimeters. You can use a satin on this. If I go up here to where this is wider, I get to 11 millimeters. The tip is to use a fill stitch. If we get down into some of these narrower components, it's telling me like at 0.7 millimeters, it's saying use a run stitch. If I go to 1 millimeter to 1.3 millimeters, it's saying to use a bean stitch. So it's going to give you some recommendations if you're new and starting out on what kind of stitch type you should use for what object. Yeah. Now, I do want to point out, this is super serious time, so we're going to point it out right now. I started this and I am using a PNG graphic. So we are digitizing over a PNG graphic. This has some really cool conversion tools when you start importing vectors. So when you bring in a vector, you don't necessarily have to draw every shape from scratch. You can go in and you can convert the shapes from whatever they are directly to a stitch type, and you can edit the properties on that. So don't think that you have to redraw everything, because it depends on the type of art that you bring in.
Right.
And so I'm redrawing everything because I brought in a PNG.
Now, keep in mind this. These softwares that are getting more intuitive and working a lot more with art elements as well as just the digitizing tools. Wilcom has it, Pulse has it, Floriani has it. This isn't quote unquote auto digitizing that a lot of these fly by night, very inexpensive digitizing companies will offer for pennies on the dollar, where they just grab any type of artwork, click, and the operating system or the software decides what type of stitch to go where. It's not that. It's just allowing you that if you are using vector art and say like the top of the hat is, the gold part of the top of the hat is a shape within that art. You can use that since you know that it is very clean vector art, lined art that's, hopefully designed in a way that you have clean lines, straight lines, and whatnot. You can convert these art elements to a stitch type, make a few adjustments, and it's just another shortcut to manually digitizing your artwork. It's always nice to have clean art just to work from, like this PNG that he's working with, just so you have a clean image when you are redrawing or digitizing everything by hand. But those functions that these newer softwares and these better softwares have, as far as manipulating art elements, is definitely a bonus.
All right, so we can have an example, Justin. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to actually use the artwork tool. And this is going to, essentially, I'm going to be drawing the shape, but I'm going to be drawing it as a vector. And I'm going to turn it to yellow. So we can go ahead and go here. And I'm going to just digitize the outline of this shape really quick. And I'm going to close it. So now we have this vector shape. We'll go ahead and go into node edit. Now, if this was a super clean vector, of course, it's going to follow everything, which I really, 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 really like this feature that I can grab onto this line and I could just move it. And you can see that it doesn't work there. So I'm just going to change this node type and I can pull that there. And it's going to set the, I'm going to call them the handle medallies, because I don't know what the word is. The angle lines, maybe. I'm going to call it the angle lines.
Yeah, and if anybody is a user of a software program like Corel or Illustrator, this is stuff that you'll know. So this is, I think, where this does well is when you have those customers that have the art background or like, started off as screen printers and they're doing a lot of vector art and they're moving into digitizing. Is kind of just taking the same knowledge that they're having from Illustrator and just applying stitches to it.
Right. So there you go. Now we have an art object. Now, if this was a vector, of course, we would have it filled, and that would kind of be our vector shape. And not every vector artist does things great. So if you have a good vector artist and it comes out and you bring it in like this, it's really, really handy. So if I wanted to change this to a fill, I can just select it right there, and I can come down here and I can click on the fill button, and now it's a fill. I want to go into of course, I want to go into the node edit here, and I want to set my angle. We'll go roughly 170 degrees. I want to set my start point and my stop point, right? And now it's a fill. But an important thing to note is that when you do come in with a vector like this, it's a vector for shapes, not necessarily a vector for embroidery. So I still need to come in here and trim my ends so that it's not going to push out. Maybe pull this down a little bit. This does ride right along the outside, which I like. I'm okay with that. But I'm going to add a point there and add a point there, because if I try to sew down into that corner the way that it's going to sew, I'm going to have an issue. And of course, I need to go in here and change my node types to cusp. And then I can pull that line in straight like that, and it'll pull out those stitches. So it's really important to note that when you are digitizing or you're learning to digitize for embroidery, when you take your vector objects and your shapes, you need to still make sure that you're going to go in and adjust for things like push and pull.
Right.
Okay. So I could run that object, then I can jump down here and I can do this yellow object. Then I'll probably do the green objects, the red object, the tan, and then I'm feeling like outlining it in red.
Go for it.
I figured you wouldn't be that upset.
No.
So we'll just come down here. We'll jump straight down, and I'll drop right there. And it is when you're entering in with the quick draw mode, right? So left click is a square node, right click is a curved node. Enter ends your object. If you're using the drawing mode that I'm doing now, right click ends your object and enter does nothing. So that can be something to get used to a little bit, but I'm gonna cut this off right about there, and I'm just gonna come around and we'll go there, probably down to about there, cut across, and I will back up a little bit and go up. And we'll see if anybody, Justin, you're getting all the questions and comments, right?
Yeah, I'm looking here. There was just one comment as far as the left and right click. This is something to keep in mind. A lot of these functions do work well better if you're using a mouse or a tablet. Using a drawing tablet and do not keep a keyboard nearby. So left and right click is my preference. That's Ramona. Even using a tablet, there are some tricks that if you want the ability of hotkeys, or if you are using something like this where you want that control function, a lot of times you can keep a smaller gaming keyboard or something like that to your left or right, depending on if you're left or right-handed. But I know that's something that Jeff and I use when we're using our tablets, mainly for hotkeys. But if you are used to that control click, that is something you could use if you move to a tablet. So I take it, since you're not really overlapping too much, you're going to widen those red areas to satin stitches?
Just a smidgen.
Yeah.
Go ahead and start up there, and yeah, I'm good with that.
So we got a quick question. Mike says, does the software snap to vector edges or anything like that?
Yes.
Yes.
I do believe you can set that in the preferences.
Okay.
It is not something that I don't like snap to. Honestly, when I digitize, I don't like it when it snaps. So that's not a function that I use. I believe that you can, though.
I agree, because if you have, like the red line next to the gold area, and then just above that is green. If you're trying to be precise and you have a lot of different colors or layers right next to each other, sometimes it starts snapping to somewhere that you don't want. But yeah, if you are, a lot of times that is a function that is nice, that if you're, say, like there's a shape that's kind of wonky and all over the place, and there's a wider span of area you're trying to digitize an outline, using a snapping tool, that if you just come near that edge of that artwork and you're just clicking away and it snaps to it, that's definitely something that's a useful tool. And that's exactly what Mike just said.
I was sitting there debating, where do I put the end point? And I do think that I'm going to pull this object here just a little bit larger. And basically I'll just select all these nodes right here and I'll pull them down a little bit more to overlap them a bit. And I think I'll pull this one up just to here.
Yeah, Ramona does say that she does have a programmable half keyboard that's currently programmed for work on functions. That's one cool thing about most of those keyboards. Generally, they're programmable because you don't have all the keys available. They're usually yay big. Just you can program any keys to your hotkeys, or if H is a function in this software, you could program whatever that H may be to, the number one key or whatever it is, just so you could have those hotkeys. Like, there's programmable mouse buttons that I use a lot, that, in Wacom, the 4 buttons I have are typically, your satin, your running, your fill stitch, stuff like that, where I quickly change tools just by, clicking a button on my mouse. But it works the same way with the keyboard as well.
All right, so I don't know if you saw that or not, but I didn't have a red on my color bar here. I can actually go here and I can search the colors.
Oh,
So
nice.
if I want a navy blue, I can click on navy blue. I can say find, and it's going to find it along this spectrum here, and then I can add it to my color palette. So that's a really cool way. I think it's cool. Anyways.
Can you search by, like, if you have a certain thread brand open, can you search by a specific number?
You know,
It did look like it.
that's 703, right? So let's jump way over here, or way over this way. I was just putting in random numbers, to be honest with you. So 703. So if you know your thread color number, it'll jump to that one.
Nice.
The things we learn. All right. We'll go ahead and back to the satin stitch here. And there. We'll go ahead and right click. So now we have those two edges that look good. I'll come up here. And these all have shortcut keys. But I've found that if I use the shortcut keys, then people don't know where to click for things. It was actually a feedback that I got on one of my YouTube videos. They're like, can you not use shortcut keys?
Yeah, a lot of times we get so set in our ways that our left hand is doing things that we don't even realize that we're doing, just because it's so automatic for us that you know, when we are showing on screen, it's kind of like, hey, slow down a little bit. What are you pushing there? So, and I've noticed that most softwares, there's at least 2, if not 3 or 4 different ways to get to the same outcome or the same tool.
Yep.
Toggling back and forth between tools, you know, there's a certain way in Wacom that you can do a hotkey that you know, toggles between the 2 tools that you're using a lot. A lot of times when you're doing section and then travel stitches and then section travel stitches, kind of like these fills. A lot of times I might be doing a fill, toggle to a running stitch to travel, toggle back to that fill. Those are nice shortcuts to do. And earlier, Jeff did mention that he decided to outline the hat in a red satin. A lot of times I do like preaching. I know Eric has brought this up. Eric Campbell's brought this up before. You got to remember, digitizing is an interpretation of the art. And the way I approach digitizing is digitizing in a way that's going to give you the best possible outcome when it's actually on the sewing machine. The cleanest edges, you know, the best coverage that you're going to get. And to me, there's times to use open fills where you just leave the edges as kind of a raw edge. I personally like the finished look of a satin. It kind of encloses the shape, especially in a design like this. It's kind of like that cartoony look. Having those borders and outlines kind of lend to that whole feel of it. So, and the fact that he has, you know, 3 different colors in the hat, fill stitches that you don't want all in the same direction because you don't want them overlapping, and you're going to show the bottom color. If they're all in the same stitch angle, those stitch are going to bleed together. Different angles are going to have different pushes and pulls of that fabric. So there is times where you might not have exactly straight lines where all these fills meet. So one way of doing to ensure that is to add that satin border. And a lot of times picking a color like this where it is all one satin color border is just going to give it that finished look. So
that's way too big. Let's go to 1.5. A little bit better. We'll inset it a ways. Yeah.
And that is a what do they call it in Floriani? The satin C?
Steel.
Steel. Okay. Steel stitch being that it's where you're plotting just a single line, and you actually can set the width of it in a numerical value. So instead of point counterpoint that you usually do satins, you're plotting one single line. You can toggle how that satin sits on that line to the inside or to the outside, and then you can actually change the satin width to it by a numerical value. So
I can, like Justin said, I can change the width. If we move it up to 3 and then I change the inset, you can see how it moves based off of the line right here that I drew.
A percentage of how far either way that it goes in the line. This tool is used a lot. It's pretty much widely available in Pulse, Wilcom, Floriani. It's a great tool. Yeah, and Brilliance. It's a great tool to use when kind of outlining shapes, and you can set column widths. You can set, to the inside, to the outside, stuff like that. So
we're getting there.
We're getting there.
It's 6:42. Fingers crossed. I don't get talking about something and then we end up not being able to finish.
So Mike says he's loving the hat wall. Thanks, Mike.
There you go.
I wish you were real. I have a setup like that. I want to thank my friend Midjourney for creating that.
Oh, so Cindy says that sounds like it would be good for applique. That way, you would know if the stitches will be on the inside or the outside. Absolutely. It is really good for that. I know that when I do, there's 2 types of applique. You can let the software generate it for you, or you can make it yourself. And I tend to make it myself.
Same here.
I figured. So let's see here. So I just ended with the cream color, and I figure I will do this hand and this hand, and then we'll start moving into some of the red. And if I'm going too fast on anything, guys, just throw popcorn at Justin and tell him to have me slow down, because I'm trying to go at a little bit slower of a pace so that you guys can see what I'm doing, and ask questions if there's anything that you see that you have a question on when you see I do it.
And we do plan on, like I said, we have the opportunity to do a lot more work with these different softwares, and the more we get more proficient and more we learn, the more we're going to be able to put out and do more advanced stuff in these softwares that we're starting to work with. If anybody's seeing the stuff we've done in Wilcom and the classes that we've done, we can get pretty in depth because all of us have used it for so long and we are proficient in it. But Jeff's been working really hard, learning a lot more in Pulse. All of us are going to have the opportunity to work more with this software. I'm pretty excited from what I've seen with it and the little that I've worked with it. I really like it as well. But yeah, we're going to be able to get more in depth in things in future lives and classes and whatnot.
If I had just digitized it as a satin when I started, I wouldn't have to change things around a little bit, but here we are. So let's take a look at how that works. It does have that auto split. I was hoping that if I broke the thumb into a different object that I would lose that auto split, but it didn't seem to happen. So we'll just live with an auto split in there.
Now, is that something you can turn off?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me show you. So I'm going to drop my stitch angles in here. Let's end over here. There we go. And Justin wants to know if I can turn off the auto split. So there's this little split thing over here where I can actually say, I want it to be a middle split. So if I wanted to split right in the center, which I don't think looks very good, I can do an absolute. I can do none, or I can do a random.
Are any of the new software you've been learning a serious contender to unseat your historical go-to?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
There are some really cool features in some of these in some software, and it's
Jeff, I've always been kind of a creature of habit, and once I get used to something and once I like something, I stick to it. I've been in the industry for over 28 years now. been using Wilcom for several years, and because my main business is commercial digitizing, I need to be fast. I need to, know the software enough where I can put out quality designs and do it in a quick way. So unfortunately, my day-to-day operations, I am using Wilcom just because that is something I know. The more
Boy,
Jeff has had the opportunity, and he was smart enough to really open it up and get more software and those main big names in the industry. He's acquired and he's worked, diligently about learning them, using them. It's definitely a weapon in your arsenal to know the different softwares, what they can do, the native files that you can provide. That is something that I do wish I could kind of give to my customers when they are asking for native Chroma software or native Pulse software, or as far as file formats. I can't give those to them because I don't use those softwares. But the more and more we dive deep, like Jeff said, Floriani is definitely a big one, and definitely something that I want to use more. The Pulse software is kind of in that same family as Floriani that I want to get more into. But yeah, I mean, I think all the different softwares have their pros and cons, especially if you've been using them for a long time and you know it and you like it. It's hard to kind of get used to some of the mouse functions, the keyboard hotkeys and whatnot. But a lot of times it's repetition. So, like I said, the more and more we use these and have the opportunity to see what they can do and learn more about them, the better and the more we can put out as far as education.
Long story short, yes.
And I'm seeing a nerd brand software. Y'all creating a software with all the favorite elements. It's not a bad idea, Cindy.
I'd be down for it. Dear software manufacturers. My phone number is. Oh yeah, I already did that arm. Sweet.
A lot of times it's really nice to have such symmetrical designs where you can just digitize basically one half of it, copy and paste over to the other half, and just rearrange your aspects and your mirror and your travel stitches. Saves a lot of time.
Yep. I concur. So I'm gonna just do a still stitch here for speed. I'm doing a really good job, Justin.
You are.
I'm taking time. Let's go ahead and take a look at this and make sure that it's going to cover enough, and I don't think that it will.
It's actually entertaining watching somebody else digitize.
Is it? I mean, I imagine. Actually, I could see that being a lot of fun. Because I do it like once a week. There we go. Words today. There we go. So again, I'm going to do a run stitch, and we'll just run down there, and then I'll do a steel stitch, and we'll come across.
I'm going to pull this question up, even though we probably don't have enough time left to fully answer it correctly, but it is something that I think that will be important to bring up in other lives. You've been working with both Floriani and Pulse, and you've worked with Wilcom. Would you be losing anything if you worked Floriani over Pulse or Floriani over Wilcom?
That is a loaded question.
Yeah.
Because there are, what's the best way to put this? Pulse has a lot of options. I mean, it can do a lot of things. And it can do them at a very granular level. And sometimes I think, honestly, that it can probably go deeper into something than you necessarily need it to. So as far as losing something, I don't necessarily know if you're going to lose something, but there are definitely different features that you're going to want to pay attention to. So it comes down like I'm not going to be able to do sequins or beading in Floriani. That's not something that they really have developed in here. That's more their commercial platform. Trying to think of other things that besides sequins and beading. The font creation in Pulse is significantly more advanced than any other software I've seen. It includes things like visual kerning, which if you're not sure what that is, it matches up every pair of pair combination that there is, and you can select you can take the two pairs and you can visually kern them to where they look proper, and then you can save that as part of your kerning. So anytime you type those two letters, it'll automatically kern to that. So there are some really like in-depth things that you're just not going to see in other softwares.
Right.
And that's the easiest example that I have, because I can honestly tell you when I saw how much I could do in Pulse as far as kerning goes, I was kind of floored.
Yeah, a lot of times there might be an absence of a function from one software to the other. Sometimes it's just a matter of the ease of using certain tools. They do the same thing across the board, but it may be a single click or a hotkey in one software, when another software you might have to do a couple of different clicks, or different couple different functions to get to the same outcome. So, and sometimes it's just a matter of taste. One person may swear up and down they love digitizing in Pulse, when the next person saying, I like the aspects of WillCom. And to be perfectly honest, the position we're in right now with these companies, and us allowing them allowing us to practice and utilize these softwares, they're taking our opinion into account as far as what the users out there need and want and like to see. So a lot of times, you making comments to us when we're showcasing stuff, us using it, knowing the types of tools that we use on a daily basis. If Floriani doesn't have it, and we go to them and say, hey, we see this aspect in Pulse and WillCom, we really think that your users would utilize this type of function. It's something that they may have not thought about, or they thought, we didn't realize that's something that's important for the everyday user that would be using that a lot. So yeah, it's we can make suggestions and kind of be their guinea pigs, if you will, with their software. And the more we use it, we showcase it, we teach it, and we talk to our audience, we'll gain that knowledge as well.
I concur.
So we're coming up here on the last 5 minutes of the show. So I just wanted to make sure if anybody else had any questions, you can add that to the comments there. But this isn't, like I said, this is something relatively new. We have been working on learning this kind of behind the scenes for a little while now, as far as the Floriani software and the Pulse software. If anybody hasn't seen the videos that Jeff has been putting out, featuring the Pulse software and the different things and the different aspects that you could do in it, go check out our YouTube channel if you're not there already, and check out those Pulse videos. They're really informative and got some good information, especially if you're a new user, new to Pulse, new to digitizing, new to the industry. Maybe you're deciding on what software that you want to buy. A lot of times the software comes from, the machine you're buying too. If you're buying a Tajima and you're talking to the people as far as one big package, they're going to sell you on Pulse because that's their product.
Oh, if you take Pulse into account of all the stuff it can do with the machine.
Oh yeah.
The Tajima machine. Ooh.
And that's another thing too. It's not only the functionality of the digitizing, but you don't want a full blown digitizing aspects that you're not going to be commercially digitizing, but you want to have some digitizing functions, and then especially those everyday functions like name drops or setting up just stock lettering and stuff like that. But the ease to integrate that into the machines. The shop that I manage production here, we have the Pulse software. We have Tajima machines. It's all networked, so it's very easy to send those designs to the machines and communicate and have everything stored in one place. Use one network. You're not having to convert certain file types and using disks or USB drives or something like that. But yeah, if the connectivity and the way it interacts with your equipment is a big factor as well. So
I agree.
we're actually our computer in the embroidery room died today, and it was an older one, and we had an older version of Pulse. And usually what happens, because upgrading computers and operating systems means that we have to upgrade the Pulse software, which is a bonus because we're going to have the newer and more updated software. But we are going from an older Pulse going into the newest one, which is 16, and hopefully picking up the new release that they're coming out with in the next coming year. That's supposed to be pretty robust on top of what they already have.
All right.
So we have it. There's our gnome in Floriani. Total Control U software.
I'll even blow it up full size. There you go. Now it's just a matter of changing a few underlays, a couple stitch angles maybe here and there. Away we go. So
awesome.
Well, all right. Well,
thank
I'll
you,
go
Jeff,
ahead
for digitizing that one for us today and giving us a little taste on that Floriani. You're going to be seeing a lot more from us in that software amongst everything else that we have planned.
There you go. I was waiting for Justin to keep talking, but he didn't. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to go ahead and take a look here, and we'll grab some more comments. Maybe we'll reply to them online. But as far as things that are coming up, you guys, Justin has classes that are coming up at ISS Long Beach. So I believe they're all up for registration now.
They are.
All right.
If you haven't registered, if you've registered for the show, you have to register for the classes individually. I'm teaching 2 classes. I do have an all-day seminar that I am teaching with 2 other teachers, Eric Campbell, and there's another teacher that I don't remember his name right now.
Oh no,
that's my bad. But that one's that's something new that they are doing at the ISS, where it's an all-day seminar. All 3 of us are going to be teaching throughout the day. We're going to have a kind of a forum at the very end to ask more questions about what we're teaching. And then I have another separate class that I'm doing on Saturday as well. So check it out.
Awesome. All right. Well, you guys can go look that up at Long Beach and the Impressions Expo. If you guys are going, I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. So that's what we have coming up there shortly. But with that is Justin Armenta from JA Digitizing Studios. I'm Jeff Fuller from Fuller Embroidery Works. We'd like to thank you guys for hanging out with us, and we'll catch you next time.
Good night, everybody.